Welcome, crypto fam, to No One Daily Bitcoin Pod. Bitcoin pumping, back in the green. I'll be sharing the latest Bitcoin technical analysis. Also, you know what's crazier than a Kennedy being back at the White House? A Kennedy that has the majority of his net worth in Bitcoin in the White House. Congratulations, RFK Jr. We'll also be discussing what the real status of Bitcoin is in El Salvador after the recent $1.4 billion IMF deal. I'll be breaking this down for you. We'll also be discussing Michigan becomes the latest state to propose a crypto reserve bill, as well as Bitcoin's chance of hitting 125,000 by June rises as traders bid for the upside. We'll also be discussing El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, just met with the Giga Chad Michael Saylor and Max Kaiser to discuss Bitcoin. What in the world did they discuss? Well, quoting Bukele here, "I thought I was orange-pilled, but now I feel orange-pilled multiplied by many times." Preach. We'll also be discussing Bitcoin to $1 million per BTC. Samson Mow offers 6 catalysts for this to happen. We'll also be taking a look at the overall crypto market. All this, plus so much more, in today's show. Welcome, everyone, to the special early Valentine's stream. Happy Valentine's, crypto fam. If you're new to the channel, very important to smash the likes. Then go ahead, subscribe. Then hit that bell icon. Turn on all notifications to receive daily premium crypto newsletters every single day, 7 days a week, just like this. Today is pod episode 1905. I'm your host, JV. Happy Valentine's Day. It's February 14th, 2025, and the biddy is back in the green. Checking out Coin 360 as we do our market watch. You can see Bitcoin trading just shy of 97,000 at the time of the live stream. XRP is a big gainer off the back of the news of some ETFs for XRP being approved or something like that. It's up 11% on the day. We have Ether up 3.3% and Solana up roughly 5%. And checking out coinmarketcap.com. The current crypto market cap currently sits at, let me get a refresh here for the latest data, 3.23 trillion. The Bitcoin market cap, 1.92 trillion. And we have roughly 95 billion worth of volume for the past 24 hours. Bitcoin dominance finally back on the decline since recapturing 60%. Today it's down to 59.5%. Ether dominance maintaining at 10.2%. Checking out top 100 crypto gainers past 24 hours. Trump coin leading the pack again today, up 30% on the day. The market cap is up to $4.274 billion, and it's currently trading at $21.38. The all-time high after the launch was above $70, so it still has quite the catching up to do. Then we have a dog whiff hat up 28% as the memes continue to lead the pack, followed by Jupe. And let me know which alts, if any, you're bullish on for the bull. Holla at your boy. And checking out the crypto bubbles, we get a visual perspective. Let's start on the daily, then we'll zoom out on the month. As you can see on the daily, the bulk of the market back in the green. Safe to say 90% green over red. Zooming out on the monthly, unfortunately, it's still Rec City overall for the alts. Maybe 85% Rec City, 15% in the green. And Trump, one of the few in the green, or was in the green, maybe not so much. And checking out the crypto greed and fear index, today neutral 48, yesterday a 50, last week a 44, and last month a 70 in greed. And checking out the time chain calendar, we have 166,266 blocks until the next halving. 2028, currently on block number 883,734, and you can currently exchange one fiat monopoly dollar for 1,033 sats. So pick up the sats, put down the gats, pick up some Bitcoin caps from our boy Sergio over at bitcoincaps.net. And let's get it. But let's continue with our TA. And the headline here reads, Bitcoin retail demand dips just 2% as analysts eyes a Bitcoin price breakout. That's right. Bitcoin retail investors remain active despite a month of Bitcoin price consolidation. In one of the quick take market updates yesterday, we had Olivier of CryptoQuant saying that the Bitcoin price may soon return. Return of the dragon. Let's go. Bitcoin retail investors have barely decreased network participation over the past month, investigating the on-chain volumes of transactions traditionally associated with the retail cohort worth up to 10,000. He said that the range-bound biddy price has not resulted in a significant difference in behavior. Quoting the analyst here, after another long period of normalization caused by the price sideways movement, retail demand is close to growing again, something that could have a positive impact on the biddy. In the last 30 days, retail investor activity fell by around 2%, a much smaller figure than the 20% recorded in January. Now, retail volumes boomed as Bitcoin hit the all-time highs, and we hit 1093 inauguration day. That was Jan 20th, the morning before the president got inaugurated. Since then, boredom has characterized the market as Bitcoin ranges in a familiar corridor. The status quo, however, may change soon. Quoting the analysts again, periods of growth and the monthly variation of the retail investor activity are consistent with the improvements of the market sentiment. It is possible that the current consolidation structure is nearing its end. The data marks the second potentially bullish sign from the investors this week. Mainstream interest, meanwhile, further demonstrates that indifference in the overriding mood regarding crypto. Google Trend shows no meaningful change and a slow come down in the mainstream consumer interest in Bitcoin. Search activity peaked early November, just after Bitcoin broke the all-time high set back in March, and since then, not even fresh peaks have been enough to keep the engagement live. And in breaking news, check this out, RFK Jr. got sworn in yesterday. He's like the head of the Make America Healthy Again, respect. And as Nico wrote here from Simply Bitcoin, you know what's crazier than a Kennedy being back at the White House? A Kennedy that has the majority of his net worth in Bitcoin in the motherfucking White House. Congratulations, RFK Jr. I'll strike the gong to that. Everyone, let's congratulate RFK Jr. And we're going to pull up some of the live charts. Again, welcome everyone just joining us. You should be able to see live on your screen right here the chart via Coinbase, via TradingView. Let's start with the 1 hour and work our way back. We do have some bull targets on your screen live and in the flesh, currently just shy of 104,000, the red target. And then we have another bull target sitting at 1016, again on the 1 hour chart, as you can see here in your screen. Checking out the 4 hour, we do have a very bullish orange target sitting at 130,000, a super bull target here. I believe we hit this sometime in Q1. Obviously, Q1 would end of March, and we're in the thick of February right now, right in the midway mark. And we also have a target just shy of 104,000 on the 4 hour chart. Overall, very bullish. Zooming out on the daily, as you can see in your screen, we've been trading sideways for some time, but it's all good in the hood. I think a decisive move is going to happen sooner than later. And on the weekly chart, we still have the sexy cup and handle target, and we do get a weekly close on Sunday around 6 p.m. So we'll see how we close for the week. And zooming out on the weekly to the monthly, and you can see it's going up forever, Laura. Thus far, February has been a little bearish, but historically it's very bullish. And again, we're only halfway through the month. Let me know where you feel the Bitty price is likely to take us next, and I'll read your comments out loud. This is regarding El Salvador. Headline reads, what's the status of Bitcoin in El Salvador after the IMF deal? Well, I think this is important to break down, and versus reading this article, I'm just going to go directly to Samson Mow, in which it is referencing, because he breaks this down very well. Here's what Samson had to share. There's a lot of confusion on whether Bitcoin is still legal tender in El Salvador. Some news reports say it's gone, but some influencers are saying it's business as usual. Who is right? It's complicated, but the short answer is Bitcoin is both is and isn't legal tender. And I'm going to go ahead and heart this post and repost it because it's great insights. And I'm going to go ahead and read this to you, this entire thread. You can look at the glass half full or half empty. The Bitcoin situation in El Salvador is complex, and there are many questions that still need to be answered. So I can understand the frustration from many Bitcoiners because the official comms seem to be everything is awesome. I don't think most Bitcoiners are going to just accept that answer, though, because they are probably worried about their future, which is fair given they moved, invested, or built businesses in El Salvador. So if the official comms on the Bitcoin law amendments are lacking, the best we can do is our own analysis. The Jan 3 team translated the edits and amendments manually, so none of the nuance is lost. So let's continue. The amendments to the Bitcoin law are very clever and allow for compliance with the IMF agreement while allowing the El Salvador government to save face. Breaking down here, the Bitcoin law still exists. El Salvador government can't touch Bitcoin anymore. maybe accept reserves. Bitcoin is no longer classified as currency. Bitcoin is legal tender, but now voluntary, contradictory, but whatever. No capital gains, and you can still spend Bitcoin. Detailed analysis follows. Article 1, it leaves Bitcoin defined as legal tender while removing the word currency and makes Bitcoin optimal or voluntary. So this is why Bitcoin is and isn't legal tender. It is defined as legal tender, but lacks the thing that actually makes it legal tender. It is not that Bitcoin was forced on businesses, but the previous real legal tender status was definitely a motivational factor for the larger businesses that wanted to be compliant. For example, Starbucks, McDonald's, etc. And I'll talk more about this later in the thread. Also worth noting, removing the word currency makes the Bitcoin law a lot less useful. Jan 3 can't push for other countries to recognize Bitcoin as a foreign currency now. Maybe the IMF listened to some of the podcasts I was on where I talked about that. Article 3, any price that may be expressed in Bitcoin is now any price may be converted into Bitcoin. Most people convert fiat prices to Bitcoin for payment, so this is just saying to do what comes naturally. Or you can read it as, previously you can price an apple in sats on a price tag /sign, but now you cannot. Article 4, you can't pay taxes in Bitcoin anymore. But also stemming from Article 1, it seems like the government also can no longer accept Bitcoin for payments, such as incorporating a company, the passport program, future citizenship by investment programs, or even the $12 tourist fee at the airport. Article 5, no capital gains on Bitcoin still. But again, we see the removal of Bitcoin being currency. This seems to be in line with the more mainstream acceptance that Bitcoin is an asset, not money or currency, and it's all outlined right there. Article 7 basically saying El Salvador government cannot touch the Bitcoin, but everyone else can. Article 8, the state doesn't need to help facilitate Bitcoin transactions, so paving the way for a Chivo phase out or sale, which is their local wallet of choice, which was a private sector wallet instructed to be done by the government. And Article 9 related to 8 is outlined right here. Then Articles 10 to 16, nothing important or no changes. And aside from the Bitcoin law amendments, there are still questions pending from El Salvador and the IMF agreement. Specifically, what does confirmed mean? I would assume that the government can continue to acquire Bitcoin as an asset, strategic Bitcoin reserve, since they are continuing with that. But it could also be that it may be stopped at a later time. It all depends on what confined means. We'll see. Again, I would think Bitcoiners want a more substantive answer than will still buy in, right? Now, the other big question is what happens when Chivo is unwound. Yes, it has never been a great wallet and had many bugs, but it served as an important fiat Bitcoin bridge and gave Bitcoin exposure to millions of people. Also, many larger merchants are still using it, such as the Super Selectos. And when I purchased pupusas in Bitcoin country, the vendor was still using the Chivo wallet, just FYI, and it worked just fine. Going back to Article 1 amendments, Bitcoin becoming optional may lead to the big companies like Super Selectos depreciating Bitcoin payment support. Keep in mind that the Super Selectos is owned by Grupo Calea Carlos and the current vice president, who was the presidential candidate for the National Republican Alliance during the 2019 presidential election and the opponent of El Presidente. So there are some political reasons why Bitcoin support could be dropped as well. However, the new optionality of Bitcoin support combined with economic practicality is probably the biggest reason we may see a drop in merchant support for Bitcoin. There are just not enough Bitcoin transactions to warrant the cost of maintaining two payment systems. Bitcoiners in El Salvador are still a small majority of the overall TXs. And when Bitcoiners like to say you can live on Bitcoin in El Salvador, it's a big part of that is the Super Selectos and the bigger companies. So something will need to be done here. So what does this leave El Salvador? The cup is either half full or half empty. The weakening of the Bitcoin law definitely makes El Salvador a bit less unique. And if you factor out the heavy marketing and PR, El Salvador sits relatively evenly with any other region that has strong grassroots adoption or a favorable tax regime paired with government support. If you want to live in a country with a Bitcoin reserve, you have Bhutan or soon the US. If you want legal tender, Prospera Global will recognize Bitcoin as legal tender. If you want to live on Bitcoin, you have the Bitcoin Jungle CR. I don't know if that's in Costa Rica and other communities. And if you want no capital gains, there's Hong Kong, Dubai, Singapore, Switzerland, Lugano, Puerto Rico. And if you want no capital gains after years and government support for Bitcoin, you have free Madeira and the Czech Republic. So there's obviously a lot of options out there. And I'll read you one more thread here. Bitcoin being ubiquitous money in El Salvador was what made the country unique. Bitcoin as a reserve asset, that is good, but less interesting. Things are definitely dulled with the IMF deal, and there are many Bitcoiners unhappy with the deal simply because we all know what entities like the IMF are. Amen. Everything isn't awesome, but that just means there is more work to be done. The door is still open to Bitcoin in El Salvador, whether because of face saving or dedication to Bitcoin. The Bitcoin law is still there, and that's something. It is likely El Salvador had to take the deal with the IMF to ensure that financing of pre-existing debt went smoothly, and it unlocked other traditional financing. Here's the key. Everything is okay. Bitcoin will be fine. There's more adoption of Bitcoin around the world than ever before, and El Salvador helped play the role in that. Bukele has to do what he thinks is best for the country first and foremost. And I'm going to leave you guys with that. Let's break down our next story of the day, discuss the breaking news over in Michigan. Michigan becomes the latest state to propose the crypto reserve bill. That's right, yo. Michigan becomes the latest U.S. state to propose the strategic Bitcoin reserve bill, bringing the total number of the states moving crypto reserve related legislation to 20. Well, in fact, yesterday, I think my headline was 29 states proposing a push for Bitcoin. So it's even more advantageous than we expect. February 13, Representative Brian and Ron introduced HB 4087 to amend the State's Management and the Budget Act to establish the strategic Bitcoin reserve. The move makes Michigan the 20th U.S. state with legislation for state crypto investments pending a vote. Quoting them here, Michigan can and should join Texas in leading on crypto policy by signing into law my bill, creating the Michigan Crypto Strategic Reserve. That's what's up. The Michigan bill would allow the state's treasurer to invest in crypto from both the general fund and economic stabilization fund with a cap of 10%. The bill doesn't specify any limits or guidelines for what cryptos can be bought for the reserve. The bill also includes a provision for lending crypto, saying that if cryptocurrency can be loaned without increasing financial risk to the state treasurer is permitted to loan the crypto to yield further return to the state. The state must hold crypto directly through a secure custody solution or ETF from registered investment companies. Michigan State Pension Fund already has exposure to Bitcoin and Ether via the ETFs. Now, he also shared and floated the idea of a Michigan coin. Oh boy. In a February 13th post, which he said was a stable coin, which I believe the state of Michigan should create, and that he said would have real value tied to our gold and silver reserves. There are currently 20 U.S. states that have crypto reserve bills that have advanced beyond the level of the House committee. The House recent state to propose or amend the crypto bill was Texas, which filed for legislation this week to allow the state to invest and trade crypto assets. North Dakota, meanwhile, is the only state to have rejected legislation regarding crypto investments. And you can see the status of the crypto reserve related bills all across the United States. Those with the Bitcoin in there is a winner. Now, there you have it, yo. As the adoption continues, also there was big news out of Texas earlier today with like moving forward with the proposal of the bill. So very bullish for state adoption as far as Bitcoin is concerned. The next story is actually a $125,000 target, which is the next reasonable leg up after we can break price discovery, currently sitting at 109.3, which was achieved back on January 20th. And here we are practically 1 month later, just shy of 100 G's with 125 in play. So yeah, Bitcoin lingered below the psychological 100,000 level for 7 days, but a crypto researcher says there's nearly a 50% chance it'll surge to 125,000 by late June. The chance Bitcoin hitting 125 by the middle of the year has improved to 44.4%, up from 41.9%, according to on-chain options protocol Derive head of research, Dr. Sean Dawson, who shared in his markets report. Dawson added that the chance of the Biddy touching 75,000 before the June drop was only 12%, down from 17.8%, meaning it's not the most likely scenario. Sorry, Arthur Hayes. Meanwhile, speaking of Arthur Hayes, is more bearish on the downside. That's precisely why I said that. Hayes predicted last month the Bitcoin could potentially pull back towards 70 and 75. Let me know if you feel the bottom is likely in already. I personally think it is, but he says we can have a mini financial crisis with Bitcoin dropping all the way to 70 to 75. Bitcoin last traded at 75 November 8th. Seems like a lifetime ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. 3 days after President Trump won the election, a moment widely seen as the catalyst for the month-long rally that pushed the Biddy to 100,000 for the first time, December 5th. Bitcoin has been trading below 100,000 since Feb 7th. Bitcoin briefly tapped a new all-time high of 109.3, Inauguration Day, January 20th. Meanwhile, Trader Jelly said that until Bitcoin reclaimed the 100 Gs, choppy conditions shall remain. And as you know, the Crypto Greed and Fear Index showed a sentiment of neutral as of yesterday and today. And asset management giant VanEck said December that the bull market will hit the medium-term peak in the first quarter of 2025 before surging to the all-time highs before the end of the year. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And if it projected, the cycle's apex would trade at around 180,000 per Biddy, while Ether would trade above $6,000. Let me know your thoughts on that. Let's continue with the news and discuss the latest of what was just discussed just yesterday. Next story. Headline here reads, El Salvador's President Bukele meets with Saylor to discuss Bitcoin. And as you can see, I mean, look at this photo right here. Imagine being in a room with Max Kaiser, Stacey Herbert, Mikey Saylor, the Giga Chad himself, and President of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele. Good Lord. And very powerful quote Max shared from Bukele last night. I thought I was orange pilled, but now I feel orange pilled multiplied by many times. Good Lord. I mean, let's freaking go. But yeah, let's break this one down. El Salvador currently holds roughly 590 million worth of Bitcoin at this current time. Here's another photo with the president of the free world, Bukele, and Mikey Saylor sitting down. You can see he got the orange tie. You already know they're discussing Bitcoin. Here's a few key takeaways according to the article. Bukele and Saylor discussed Bitcoin at the presidential palace February 13th. That was yesterday. El Salvador's recent legislative amendments make Bitcoin voluntary legal tender and prohibit its use for tax payments, aligning with the IMF loan requirements. And I just shared all the insights from Samson Mow regarding that deal, you know what I mean, and how to interpret it. El Salvador's President Bukele and strategy founder Saylor met at Casa Presidencial, the presidential house of El Salvador, on Thursday to discuss Bitcoin, according to the country's National Bitcoin Office. And guess who is the head of the National Bitcoin Office? You guessed it. Max and Stacey. And here's another photo. President Bukele met with Saylor this afternoon at Casa Presidential. And of course, Bitcoin was discussed. So it's fantastic to see those two together. I mean, this is historic. The Bitcoin office also posted Bitcoin country cooks. And you can see some more exclusive photos. Let's actually scope them out. I'll share it with the fam here. Here's a photo of the president with Saylor. Here's another photo with Max, Stacey. Sorry, I don't know the other gentleman's name here, but then with Saylor and Bukele. I mean, wow, powerful. Just looking at this photo like makes me low-key jealous. I want to be there. Michael Saylor and Bukele. I mean, look at these guys. Some of the best leaders we've ever had for Bitcoin adoption. And another great photo right here. Sorry, I can't name them all because I don't know everyone here, but respect to everyone there. And of course, we can all identify Max, Stacey, Michael, and Nayib. Very powerful. But nonetheless, let's get back to the story here. So you can see February 13th, Bukele shared the photos. The advocates had dinner at the presidential palace, as you can see here in that photo. I mean, wow. I'd love to hear those conversations. El Salvador added 1 Bitcoin to its holdings around the time, bringing its total now to 6,077 BTC, valued at almost 600 million, according to Arcam Intelligence data. The purchase is part of its daily dollar cost averaging strategy, where it purchases ultimately 1 Bitcoin per day. But there has been some days where they've purchased 11 Bitcoin. I remember the day after striking the 1.4 billion IMF loan deal, they did the 11 Bitcoin purchase. Saylor's strategy just resumed its Bitcoin acquisition last week, acquiring 7,633 Bitcoin. So let that sink in. Saylor's most recent purchase of 7,633 Bitcoin is more than the grand total sum of all the Bitcoin that El Salvador holds, just to give you perspective of how crazy of a whale Michael Saylor is. Yeah, I mean, they now have Bitcoin reserves at 478,740 BTC, which is truly mind-boggling. At today's Bitty price, that's roughly $46 billion. On BTC shared more photos of the meeting on Friday, but the details, of course, remain private. If I get any special insights from Max himself, I'll be sure to let you guys know. But of course, this is a private meeting. But I could assure you they're talking about Bitcoin adoption and purchasing more Bitcoin. I mean, that's what Michael Saylor does best. He's the Michael Jordan of Bitcoin. All right, now for our feature story of the day. Bitcoin to $1 million. Jan 3's Samson Mow offers 6 catalysts for this price target to happen. So let's break it down and shout out Samson Mow doing big things for Bitcoin adoption around the world. So yeah, sounds wild to the average person, but Samson has mapped out 6 ways it can really happen. No fluff, just key factors that can send the Bitty price soaring fast towards 6 zeros. The renowned Bitcoin bull calls them the 6 paths to the Omega. For those that don't know, the Omega candle in play, which is something he coined himself. First up, supply shock with the logic that if institutional players like MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy B, and ETF issuers such as the BlackRock keep buying aggressively, which they will, that's a guarantee, brother, available Bitcoin dries up. And right now we have the least amount of Bitcoin available on the exchanges we have ever seen. And just at the current pace, we will have a supply shock, I think, in the year 2027. But if we accelerate, which is to be anticipated, in my opinion, obviously, we can have that supply shock sooner than later, sending Bitcoin to 7 figures sooner than later. So keep that in mind. Simple supply and demand. Price goes up when you have very limited supply and high demand. And that's what we're witnessing with the institutional FOMO like a Movo. Then there's the idea of the strategic Bitcoin reserve at the state level, which is occurring in real time. Governments holding Bitcoin as a reserve asset. Not impossible with the talks and speculations already taking place. I mean, every day in the news, another state proposing adopting Bitcoin some way, somehow. I mean, today we were talking Michigan, the other day Texas, there's Wyoming, there's Florida. There's now like 29 states looking to embrace the Bitty. And what if the U.S. jumps in and establishes its own strategic Bitcoin reserve, as Cynthia Lummis proposes in her bill, in which Trump, he's trying to stockpile the Bitty for the country. And he also said he wanted to make America the Bitcoin mining hub of the world. What if they were to sign that bill for the strategic Bitcoin reserve and purchase, let's say, 1 million Bitcoin over the course of the next 5 years? There's roughly a 200,000 Bitcoin purchase per year. That's the game theory. That, my friend, is the hash war, in which the global hash war, in which Max Kaiser coined many years back. That would be a seismic shift, to say the least. And that's how you get to targets such as JV's 1.1 million bull scenario for 2025. That's how you get to targets like Max Kaiser's 2.2 million target for this cycle peak. And that's how you get to Samson Mow's $1 million target. I mean, it can happen, family. A complete rebasing of the US dollar to Satoshis could occur. Redefining value measurement itself, sure, it sounds crazy, but big changes can happen when systems reach their limits. 6 paths to Omega. Supply shock from MSTR and ETF buying. State level strategic Bitcoin reserves. U.S. federal strategic Bitcoin reserve. Rebasing of the U.S. dollar to Satoshis. And as you know, 1 Bitcoin can be divided by 100 million Satoshis. So by the time a Satoshi is valued at $1, we're talking $100 million per Bitty. Also, the nation state FOMO. Besides the nation state FOMO, we have the state FOMO, demonetization of gold to acquire Bitcoin. That was a proposal Saylor made. He said, you know, if the United States and other countries were to ultimately change out their gold reserves for Bitcoin, it would crash gold collectively, and the Bitcoin market cap would soar, surpassing that of gold. And then they would have a lot of power if they chose to do that. So you could only imagine. Also, we had Bukele announce a few weeks back that he believes the country of El Salvador is sitting on roughly $3 trillion worth of gold. What do you think they will likely do with the gold when they discover it and mine it? They're going to trade it for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's overtaking gold. And quoting Max Kaiser, gold is the poor man's Bitcoin. Poor Peter Schiffmeister. But yeah, so nation state FOMO is another factor. Countries might suddenly feel the pressure to stack the biddy, the global hash wars, the game theory, not wanting to be left behind. And according to Mao, if one major economy like that, of the very same of the United States, makes the leap, others could try to catch up. Nobody wants to be last, hence the game theory. Then there is the gold angle. Governments and institutions shifting from the traditional safe haven into Bitcoin. I mean, it's perfect money. It's pristine collateral. If gold starts losing its monetary role in favor of Bitcoin, it could mean a massive liquidity shift. And I think that could likely happen. Who wants the precious metal gold where they can continue to find more and more? Gold has what I would define as relative scarcity. Bitcoin, true scarcity. There's a hard cap limited supply, hard coded into the protocol. 21 million, right? There's only so much to go around. What if 5-6 million lost, gone forever? What does that give us? Like 15 million Bitcoin? And how many millionaires are there in the world? Like over 40,000. How many billionaires are there in the world? And eventually all the billionaires will have the Bitcoin if they don't already. But Mao is not just throwing ideas around. He has made major predictions before. Bitcoin to $1 million in 2025 is amongst the loudest. Let me know, what do you think the probability of Bitcoin reaching $1 million this year in 2025? Holla. And 3 more countries adopting crypto strategies. He sees that happening too. You know, Samson's at the forefront for Bitcoin adoption at the nation state level. That's what he does. He goes around countries orange pilling presidents and such, governments. If one of these 6 triggers fires, Bitcoin can see various movement. Is it possible to see more than one at the same time? Absolutely. Anything can happen. That is where the Omega candle comes from. And for those that don't know, it's defined as a $100,000 surge on the daily chart, which would mean, for example, if we got an Omega candle hypothetically tomorrow, the Bitcoin price would be 197,000. We'd have a move up of 100 G's. So you let me know your thoughts with Samson Mow's projections and the 6 catalysts that'll likely send Bitcoin parabolic to 7 figures per biddy. Holla at your boy. The Oracle says we will see $1 per sat soon. If BlackRock gets out of the way, we'd be there even sooner. Meaning if they're not manipulating the markets, because clearly they're purchasing mass amounts of Bitcoin. They now have over 500,000 Bitcoin. They have more Bitcoin than Strategy B. But nonetheless, there's always manipulation involved because they rather suppress the price to buy more of the biddy. So completely understand. Yeah, I mean, 100,000 surge in a single move would set the market on fire. Precisely. Imagine just waking up. How many years did it take Bitcoin from the inception of the Genesis block to go from 0 to 100,000? Something like 15 years. Ballpark, right? So what if it did what it took 15 years to achieve in one day? That's what we're talking about with the Omega candle. One day movement that took 15 years previously in 24 hours. The Omega candle. 58 million millionaires worldwide. Thank you for the insights. Approximately 15 million Bitcoin total after the lost coins. That's my guesstimation as well. There's probably only ever going to be 15 million circulating Bitcoin out there. And BlackRock probably owns close to 1 million already. Michael Saylor already has 500,000. Yeah, I mean, some of the mega whales already hold a lot of the supply. And now you have nations adopting the Bitcoin. Crazy. Sovereign wealth funds. You got pension funds. You got like firefighters and police, as we discussed yesterday. All the smart money is going to move into Bitcoin. So I could see an Omega candle occurring. When? Your guess is as good as mine. You know what I mean? Time will tell. But you guys, let me know what you think on that prediction. We've seen it up to 10,000 in a candle. That's right. We may have even got close to 20,000, right? We did the God candle a couple of times at least. 100,000 isn't far-fetched. Exactly. It's 10x what we have already done. 10x is easy peasy in the Bitcoin world. Right? I remember when I first discovered Bitcoin in 2017, it was $1,500. I think earlier in the year, it was like 1,000, and it went up to 20,000 before the end of the year for the bull in 2017. So I've seen Bitcoin go up 20x in a single year, practically. So can we go up 10x from here and hit $1 million within a year? Yeah, absolutely possible. Happy 11/11. There's 1,111 people on the live stream right now. That's a divine omen. Omega candle to 169. Send it. I don't mind at all. And what are we going to define as the $1 million candle on the daily chart. Can we call that the Satoshi candle? God candle's 10,000. Omega candle is 100,000. Satoshi, 1 million. Single move. Whoop, whoop. Wop, 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 wop. BTC, mess 'em up.